Captain Vexai stood on the command deck of his ship, watching the stars through the large viewing window. His ship, the Eternal Radiance, was beautiful to look at. It was made of white metal that seemed to glow from inside. Blue and gold lights moved across its surface like living things. The ship was huge, bigger than most space stations that other races built. Vexai was proud of his ship and his people. The Zaphirians had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. They were gods to the many races they had found and conquered. At least that is what those races believed. The truth was different. The Zaphirians were not really gods. They were just very advanced aliens who had learned how to make other species think they were divine. They had technology that seemed like magic to younger races. They could make themselves look like beings of pure light. They could speak directly into other people's minds. They could move objects without touching them and create energy from nothing. To primitive species, these abilities made the Zaphirians appear to be gods. And the Zaphirians liked it that way. Being worshipped was much easier than fighting wars. When a species thought you were a god, they gave you whatever you wanted. They built temples for you. They gave you their best resources. They followed your every command without question. Vexai had been doing this job for over 200 years. He was what his people called a divine herald. His job was to find new species and make them believe the Zaphirians were gods. He was very good at his work. In his career, he had brought 23 different species under Zaphirian control. Not one of them had ever questioned his divine nature. The process was always the same. First, his scouts would find a new species that had just developed space travel. The Zaphirians liked to catch races at this stage because they were still young and easy to impress. Then Vexai would take his ship to their worlds and perform the Divine Revelation protocol. The Divine Revelation was a carefully planned show. Vexai would make his ship appear in the sky with bright lights and strange music. He would project himself as a giant figure of golden light above their cities. He would speak to their minds in their own language, telling them that they had been chosen for a great honor. He would perform miracles that seemed impossible to their primitive science. The results were always the same. The new species would fall to their knees in fear and wonder. They would declare the Zaphirians to be gods and beg for their wisdom and protection. Within a few months, they would be building temples and sending tribute ships full of resources to the Zaphirian Empire. It was a perfect system that had worked for thousands of years. The Zaphirian Empire now controlled 17 star systems and ruled over dozens of different species. All of them worshipped the Zaphirians as divine beings who had blessed them with their presence. But today, Vexai was thinking about something new. His ship's sensors had detected another young species at the edge of Zaphirian space. The reports from his scouts were interesting. These beings called themselves humans, and they had recently developed faster-than-light travel. They were expanding rapidly from their home system, building colonies and exploring new worlds. What made the humans particularly interesting was how quickly they were advancing. Most species took hundreds of years to go from first space flight to interstellar travel. The humans had done it in less than 50 years. They were also different in other ways. While most species focused on one type of technology, humans seemed to develop everything at once. They had advanced computers, powerful weapons, fast ships, and complex machines. The scout reports also mentioned something unusual about human behavior. Unlike most species, humans seemed to question everything. They had dozens of different governments, hundreds of different religions, and thousands of different ways of thinking about the universe. This diversity made them unpredictable, but it also made them potentially valuable to the Empire. Vexai was reading through the latest report when his communications officer approached. The officer was named Zathara, and she had been with Vexai for many years. Like all Zaphirians, she was tall and thin with pale blue skin and large silver eyes. She wore the white robes that marked her as a member of the Divine Fleet. "Captain," Zathara said, bowing her head respectfully, "we have received new orders from the Council of Ascended Ones." Vexai turned from the window to face her. The Council of Ascended Ones was the governing body of the Zaphirian Empire. They were the oldest and most powerful Zaphirians, and they made all the important decisions about which species to contact and how to control them. "What do they command?" Vexai asked. Zathara handed him a crystal data tablet. "They want us to make contact with the humans immediately. The Council believes this species has great potential. Their rapid advancement and large population could make them very valuable tribute providers." Vexai read through the orders carefully. The Council wanted him to follow standard protocol. He was to approach the largest human colony outside their home system and perform the divine revelation. The humans were to be brought into the Empire as quickly as possible. The Council also notes, Zathara continued, that this species seems to be naturally warlike. The humans have been fighting wars among themselves for their entire history. The Council believes that divine intervention will be particularly welcome to such a violent species. Vexhai nodded. Warlike species were often the easiest to convert. They were used to following strong leaders, and they respected power above all else. When faced with beings who seemed to have unlimited power, they usually submitted quickly and completely. Set course for the human colony designated as New Gibraltar, Vexhai ordered, and begin preparing the divine revelation protocol. We will show these humans what real power looks like. The crew moved quickly to follow his orders. The eternal radiance turned toward human space, its engines creating trails of beautiful light as it moved. The ship could travel faster than most species thought possible. It would reach New Gibraltar in just a few days. As they traveled, Vexhai studied everything the scouts had learned about humans. The species had evolved on a world they called Earth. It was a planet with many different environments, which explained why humans were so diverse and adaptable. They had developed in isolated groups for thousands of years before developing technology that let them communicate across long distances. This isolation had created many different human cultures, languages, and belief systems. Some humans believed in one god, others believed in many gods, and some believed in no gods at all. This variety might make the divine revelation more complex than usual, but Vexhai was confident it would still work. Every species had some concept of divine beings, and humans seemed to be no exception. The colony of New Gibraltar was located on a planet in a system humans called Kepler 4R42. It was their largest settlement outside the Sol system, with over 2 million inhabitants. The planet was mostly covered by oceans with several large continents. The humans had built their main city on the largest continent, near a natural harbor that reminded them of places on their homeworld. According to the scout reports, New Gibraltar was primarily a mining and research colony. The planet had large deposits of rare metals that humans needed for their technology. It also had several universities where human scientists studied the local environment and developed new technologies. The colony was governed by a man named Governor Harrison Webb. He was an older human who had been chosen for his administrative skills and his ability to work with different groups of people. The colony also had a defense force led by a woman named Commander Sarah Chen. The defense force was small but well equipped with human military technology. Vexhai studied the images of these human leaders carefully. They looked very different from the species he usually dealt with. Humans were shorter than Zaphirians but more heavily built. They had dark eyes and came in many different skin colors. Their faces showed emotions clearly, which would make it easy to judge their reactions during the divine revelation. As the eternal radiance approached New Gibraltar, Vexhai made final preparations for the contact. He ordered his technicians to prepare the holographic projectors that would make him appear as a being of pure light. He had his communication systems ready to broadcast directly into human minds using psionic amplifiers. He prepared the energy manipulation systems that would let him perform impressive displays of power. Everything was ready for another successful divine conquest. Vexhai had no doubt that the humans would react like every other species before them. They would be afraid at first, then amazed, then worshipful. Within hours, they would be building altars and begging for the wisdom of their new gods. The ship's sensors detected New Gibraltar ahead. The planet was blue and white, with swirling clouds that reminded Vexhai of other water worlds he had visited. The human city was visible as a cluster of lights on the largest continent. Several human ships moved in orbit around the planet, but they were small and primitive compared to the eternal radiance. "Beginning final approach," reported the navigation officer. "The humans have detected us and are attempting to communicate using radio signals." Vexhai smiled. Radio communications were so primitive. The humans were trying to talk to him using electromagnetic waves like he was just another spaceship. They had no idea they were about to meet their gods. "Ignore their communications," Vexhai ordered. "Begin the divine revelation protocol. Let us show these humans what true divinity looks like." The eternal radiance moved into position above the human city. Its hull began to glow with brilliant white light. Energy patterns flowed across its surface in complex designs that seemed to have meaning beyond human understanding. The ship itself began to change shape, becoming less like a machine and more like a living thing made of pure energy. HFY took his position at the center of the command deck. Around him, holographic systems activated and psionic amplifiers powered up. He felt the familiar surge of artificial enhancement that made him seem godlike to primitive species. His consciousness expanded beyond his physical body, becoming something vast and powerful. Below on the planet's surface, humans were beginning to notice the incredible display in their sky. They were pointing and staring and taking pictures with their crude devices. Soon they would be on their knees worshipping their new divine masters. HFY prepared to address the humans for the first time. He would speak to their minds in words of power and wisdom. He would show them miracles that would convince them of his divine nature. He would begin the process that would bring humanity into the Zaphirian Empire as willing servants and tribute providers. The divine revelation was about to begin, and HFY was confident it would succeed just like all the others before it. After all, no species had ever failed to recognize the obvious divinity of the Zaphirians. These humans would be no different. The stage was set for first contact between humanity and the beings who claimed to be gods. Either side knew that this encounter would be unlike any that had come before it. Commander Sarah Chen was in the middle of reviewing defense protocols when the alarms started ringing. She looked up from her desk at the new Gibraltar Defense Command Center to see her communications officer running toward her with wide eyes. "Commander," the young officer said, breathing hard, "you need to see this. There's something in the sky above the city." Sarah followed the officer to the main viewing screen. What she saw made her stop and stare. A massive ship hung in the air above New Gibraltar's capital city. But it was not like any ship she had ever seen before. It seemed to be made of pure light, changing colors from white to gold to blue. Energy patterns flowed across its surface in ways that seemed impossible, according to everything she knew about physics. "How big is it?" Sarah asked. "Our sensors say it's over 3 kilometers long," replied Lieutenant Martinez, her tactical officer. "But the readings keep changing. Sometimes it appears solid. Sometimes it looks like it's made of energy. Our instruments can't get a clear reading on its composition." Sarah frowned. She had been a military officer for 15 years and had seen many strange things in space. But this was different. The ship didn't follow any design principles she recognized. Human ships were built for function. Strong hulls, efficient engines, practical weapon systems. This ship looked more like a work of art than a machine. "Have they responded to our communications?" she asked. "No, Commander. We've tried every frequency we know. They're not answering on radio, laser communications, or quantum channels. It's like they're ignoring us completely." Sarah's training told her to be cautious. An unknown ship that appeared without warning and refused to communicate was a potential threat. She was about to order the defense systems to active status when something incredible happened. The ship began to glow brighter. The light became so intense that people throughout the city could see it clearly, even though it was the middle of the day. Then something began to form in the air above the city center. It started as a small point of golden light, but it grew rapidly until it became a figure that was over 100 meters tall. The figure looked like a man, but it was made entirely of golden light. It had no features that Sarah could clearly see, but somehow it gave the impression of great age and wisdom. When it moved, trails of light followed behind it like a comet's tail. The figure raised its arms and the light became even brighter. Then it spoke. But it didn't speak with sound. Instead, the words appeared directly in Sarah's mind, and she could tell from the looks on her officers' faces that they were hearing the same thing. "People of Earth," the voice said inside their heads, "I am HFY, Herald of the Ascended Ones. Your species has been chosen for a great honor. We have watched your progress across the stars, and we are pleased with what we have seen." Sarah felt a strange pressure in her mind as the voice continued. It was as if something was trying to push its way into her thoughts, making her want to listen and believe without question. "Do not be afraid," the voice continued. "We are the beings your ancestors called gods. We have guided the development of countless species across the galaxy. Now we offer the same gift to humanity. Kneel before us, and we will share with you the secrets of the universe." Around the command center, Sarah watched in shock as several of her officers fell to their knees. Their eyes had become vacant, and they were staring up at the golden figure with expressions of wonder and worship. Even Lieutenant Martinez, who Sarah had always considered one of her most level-headed officers, was starting to kneel. But Sarah remained standing. Something about this whole situation felt wrong to her. The voice in her head was compelling, but her scientific training made her analyze what she was experiencing rather than simply accepting it. The figure was impressive, but Sarah noticed things that didn't fit with the idea of a divine being. For one thing, the light patterns weren't random. They followed specific sequences that reminded her of holographic projections. The voice in her head felt artificial too, like it was being transmitted through some kind of technology rather than supernatural power. "Martinez," she said quietly to her tactical officer, who was still on his knees. "Run a full-spectrum analysis on that figure. I want to know what it's really made of." Martinez blinked and seemed to come back to himself. He looked embarrassed as he got back to his feet and moved to his console. "Right away, Commander." Meanwhile, the golden figure continued its speech to the city below. Throughout New Gibraltar, people were coming out of their buildings to stare up at the incredible sight. Many of them were falling to their knees just like Sarah's officers had done. "We offer you protection from the dangers of the galaxy," the voice said. "We offer you knowledge that will advance your civilization by thousands of years. We offer you a place in our great empire where you will want for nothing. All we ask in return is your worship and your loyalty." Sarah watched her instruments carefully as Martinez ran his analysis. The results were interesting. The figure was indeed a holographic projection, created by some kind of advanced technology. The ship itself was solid, but it was using energy fields to change its appearance and make it seem more mysterious than it really was. More importantly, the voice in their heads was being transmitted using a form of technology that affected brain chemistry. It was designed to make people feel compelled to believe and obey. It was sophisticated, but it was still just technology. "Commander," Martinez whispered, "the analysis is complete. That thing up there isn't a god. It's a very advanced hologram, and the voice in our heads is coming from some kind of psionic transmitter." Sarah nodded grimly. She had suspected as much. These beings, whoever they were using advanced technology to impersonate gods. The question was why. The answer became clear when the golden figure began making specific demands. It wanted the humans to build a temple in the center of the city. It wanted them to gather all their most valuable resources and prepare them as tribute. It wanted their leaders to come forward and pledge their loyalty to the Ascended Ones. This wasn't divine intervention. This was conquest disguised as religious contact. Sarah looked around the command center and saw that most of her officers were still under the influence of the alien technology. They were nodding along with everything the figure said, ready to carry out its commands without question. But not all of them were affected. Sarah noticed that the officers with the most military training seemed to be resisting the mental influence better than others. Their disciplined minds were fighting against the alien technology. She moved carefully from officer to officer, quietly shaking those who seemed most capable of independent thought. One by one, she helped them break free from the mental influence by pointing out the technological nature of what they were experiencing. "Listen to me," she whispered to each of them. "This isn't magic. It's just advanced technology. Fight it." Slowly, a small group of her officers came back to full awareness. They looked shocked and angry when they realized how they had been manipulated. "What do we do, Commander?" asked Sergeant Kim, one of her most trusted soldiers. "Most of the city is already under their influence." Sarah looked out at the city where thousands of people were kneeling in worship of the golden figure. She could see construction crews already beginning to work on the temple the aliens had demanded. The human colonial government was preparing to surrender their independence to these false gods. "First, we need to warn Earth," Sarah said quietly. "Send a coded message to Earth Defense Command. Tell them we have hostile aliens using advanced psychological warfare technology to conquer human colonies." "What about the people here?" asked Martinez. "How do we free them from this influence?" Sarah thought carefully. The alien technology was powerful, but it wasn't perfect. People with strong wills and analytical minds could resist it, especially if they understood what was happening to them. "We start by spreading the truth," she said. "These beings aren't gods. They're just advanced aliens using technology to control us. If we can get that message to enough people, some of them will be able to break free." But even as she said it, Sarah knew it would be difficult. The aliens had been very clever in their approach. They had offered humanity everything they wanted: protection, knowledge, advancement, in exchange for worship and tribute. For most people, it would seem like an easy choice. The golden figure continued its performance for several more hours. It demonstrated what it called miracles, moving objects without touching them, creating energy from nothing, healing sick people with a wave of its hand. To most observers, these displays seemed to prove the figure's divine nature. But Sarah and her small group of resistant officers watched everything through their instruments. Each miracle had a technological explanation. The object movement was done with tractor beam technology. The energy creation used advanced power systems. The healing was accomplished with medical nanobots delivered through the air. It was all very impressive technology, far beyond what humans currently possessed. But it wasn't magic and it wasn't divine power. As the day went on, Sarah watched the colony's leadership fall completely under the aliens' influence. Governor Webb made a public announcement that New Gibraltar would join the Divine Empire and begin construction of tribute ships immediately. The colony's scientists began working on projects the aliens had assigned to them. Only Sarah's small group remained free from the mental influence, and they had to be very careful not to reveal their resistance. If the aliens discovered that some humans were immune to their control, they might use more direct methods of conquest. That evening, Sarah gathered her resistant officers for a secret meeting in a shielded room deep underground. They had managed to send their warning message to Earth, but it would take weeks for any response to arrive. "We need to document everything," Sarah told them. "Every aspect of their technology, every weakness we can find. When Earth responds, they'll need all the information we can give them." "Do you think Earth will send help?" asked Sergeant Kim. Sarah looked out the window at the city where construction on the alien temple was proceeding rapidly under floodlights. The golden figure had disappeared, but the massive alien ship still hung in the sky above them like a constant reminder of their new masters. "I hope so," she said quietly. "Because if we're right about what these aliens really are, then humanity is facing a threat unlike anything we've ever encountered before." What Sarah didn't know was that the aliens had been using the same techniques for thousands of years. They had conquered dozens of other species using identical methods. They had never encountered a species that could resist their psychological control technology. But humanity was different. Humans had spent their entire history questioning authority and fighting against oppression. Some of them would always resist, no matter how compelling the alien influence might be. The stage was set for a confrontation that neither side fully expected. Admiral Marcus Webb stood in the command center of the Earth Defense Force flagship Indomitable, reading Commander Chen's report for the third time. The message had arrived 3 days ago through quantum communication channels, and its contents had changed everything. Marcus was a career military officer who had spent 40 years in space. He had fought in the Mars Independence War and the asteroid mining conflicts. He had seen strange things in the dark between stars, but nothing like what Chen was describing on New Gibraltar. Aliens claiming to be gods, he muttered to himself, using advanced technology to control human minds. His chief science officer, Dr. Elena Vasquez, looked up from her own copy of the report. Elna was a brilliant woman who specialized in xenopsychology and alien contact protocols. She had been studying the possibility of hostile alien contact for most of her career. "The technology Chen describes is fascinating," Elena said. "Direct neural manipulation using some form of electromagnetic or psionic field. If these aliens have perfected mind control technology, they represent a serious threat to human independence." Marcus nodded grimly. The report made it clear that most of New Gibraltar's population had fallen under alien influence within hours of first contact. Only a few people with strong military training or scientific backgrounds had been able to resist. "What's our response capability?" Marcus asked his tactical officer. Commander James Harrison consulted his displays. "The Third Fleet is ready for immediate deployment. 12 heavy cruisers, 4 destroyers, and the experimental ship Ragnarok. We can reach New Gibraltar in 8 days if we push the engines hard." Marcus had been hoping to avoid using the Ragnarok. The ship was humanity's most advanced warship, equipped with experimental weapons that had never been tested in real combat. It was also the most heavily armed vessel humans had ever built, designed specifically to fight unknown alien threats. But if Chen's report was accurate, they might need every advantage they could get. "Dr. Vasquez," Marcus said, "how do we fight an enemy that can control minds?" Elena had been working on this problem since the report arrived. "I've been developing countermeasures based on Chen's data. The alien technology seems to work by affecting brain chemistry through external electromagnetic fields. I can design neural dampening systems that should block their influence. How long do you need? Give me 6 days. I can have prototype systems ready for installation on all our ships by the time we reach New Gibraltar. Marcus made his decision. Do it, Harrison. Prepare the fleet for immediate departure. And send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we're dealing with a Code Black scenario. Code Black was the highest level of alien threat classification. It meant that human independence and possibly human survival were at risk. It would activate emergency protocols throughout Earth's military and government. As the Indomitable and its escort ships left Earth orbit, Marcus studied everything they knew about the alien threat. Chen's report included detailed sensor readings and analysis of the alien ship and its capabilities. The data painted a picture of technology that was advanced but not impossibly so. The alien ship was large and impressive, but its energy signature showed it was still bound by the same physical laws that governed human technology. Their miracles were accomplished through advanced engineering, not supernatural power. Most importantly, the aliens seemed to rely entirely on their mind-control technology for conquest. They had made no attempt to use conventional weapons or show superior military force. This suggested they might not be prepared for an enemy that could resist their mental influence. They've probably been using the same tactics for centuries. Elena observed during one of their strategy sessions. Find a primitive species, convince them you're gods, accept their worship and tribute. It's an elegant system, but it has a critical weakness. What's that? Marcus asked. It only works if your targets believe in gods. Humans have always been skeptical about divine claims. We've spent centuries learning to question authority and think for ourselves. That makes us naturally resistant to this kind of deception. The journey to New Gibraltar gave Marcus time to plan their approach carefully. They would arrive with stealth systems active, staying hidden until they could assess the situation. If possible, they would try to free the human colonists through non-violent means. But if the aliens proved hostile, Marcus was prepared to use force. The Ragnarok was equipped with weapons that could level cities or crack planets. Quantum disruptor cannons that could tear apart matter at the atomic level. Kinetic bombardment systems that could drop tungsten rods from orbit with the force of nuclear weapons. Nanite swarms that could disassemble enemy ships molecule by molecule. Marcus hoped he wouldn't need to use any of these weapons. But if the aliens threatened humanity's freedom, he would not hesitate to protect his species. On the 6th day of their journey, Dr. Vasquez completed her neural dampening systems. The devices were small units that attached to a person's head and generated a field that blocked external mental influence. She had tested them extensively using simulations based on Chen's data. The system should provide complete protection against the alien mind control technology, she reported to Marcus. I've made enough units for the entire crew of every ship in the fleet. Marcus ordered all crew members to be equipped with the dampening systems immediately. He wasn't taking any chances with alien mental manipulation. On the 8th day, the human fleet arrived at the edge of the New Gibraltar system. They immediately activated stealth systems and began their approach carefully. Long-range sensors showed the alien ship still in orbit around the human colony. Readings confirmed Commander Chen's report. Harrison announced, one large alien vessel, approximately 3 kilometers in length. Energy signatures suggest advanced power systems, but nothing beyond our ability to counter. Marcus studied the tactical display. The alien ship was impressive, but it was also alone. If it came to a fight, 12 human warships would have a significant advantage. Any sign of additional alien vessels? Marcus asked. Negative, sir. Sensors show only the one ship. But Admiral, you should see this. Harrison activated the main viewing screen, showing them the surface of New Gibraltar. The human city had changed dramatically since Chen's report. A massive temple had been built in the center of town, made of gleaming metal that reflected the alien ship's glow. Thousands of humans could be seen moving in organized patterns around the temple, carrying supplies and resources. They're building tribute ships, Elena observed, loading them with raw materials and manufactured goods. The entire colony has been turned into a resource extraction operation for the aliens. Marcus felt anger building inside him. These aliens had conquered a human colony using deception and mind control. They were treating humans like slaves, forcing them to work for alien benefit. Take us in closer, Marcus ordered. I want to get a better look at their ship before we make contact. As the human fleet moved deeper into the system, their sensors gathered more information about the alien vessel. The ship's hull was made of an unknown metal that seemed to store and redirect energy. Its weapon systems appeared to be primarily energy-based, powerful but limited in range and effectiveness. More importantly, the ship showed no signs of detecting the approaching human fleet. Their stealth systems were working perfectly. "Admiral," the communications officer reported, "I'm detecting coded transmissions from the planet's surface. Someone down there is trying to contact us." Marcus smiled grimly. "That would be Commander Chen. Put her through." Chen's face appeared on the communication screen. She looked tired and stressed, but her eyes were alert and determined. "Admiral Webb," she said quietly, "thank God you're here. The situation is worse than my initial report indicated. The aliens have complete control over most of the population. Only about 30 of us have remained free from their influence." "What's the alien response capability?" Marcus asked. "Unknown, sir. They haven't shown any conventional weapons. Everything they've done has been through their mind control technology and energy manipulation systems. But Admiral, there's something else you should know." "Go ahead, Commander." "The alien captain tried to contact their home fleet yesterday. I don't know if the message got through, but if it did, we might be facing reinforcements soon." Marcus processed this information quickly. If more alien ships were coming, the human fleet needed to act fast. "Chen, can you get your people to safety if shooting starts?" "Yes, sir. We have a secure facility outside the city. But what about the rest of the colonists?" "We'll do everything we can to free them," Marcus promised. "Dr. Vasquez has developed countermeasures for the alien mind control technology. If we can disrupt their systems, the colonists should return to normal." Marcus cut the communication and turned to his officers. "Gentlemen, we have a situation. Hostile aliens have conquered a human colony using advanced psychological warfare. They're treating our people as slaves and may be calling for reinforcements." He looked around the command center at the faces of his crew. These were professional military officers who had sworn to protect humanity from all threats. "Our mission is simple," Marcus continued. "We're going to free those colonists and send these false gods a message they'll never forget." "Any questions?" There were no questions. Every officer on the bridge understood what needed to be done. "Harrison, take us out of stealth and broadcast on all frequencies. Let's introduce ourselves to these aliens properly." The human fleet dropped their stealth systems and appeared suddenly in the space above New Gibraltar. 12 heavily armed warships materialized as if from nowhere, surrounding the alien vessel. Marcus activated the fleet's communication systems and broadcast on every frequency he could reach. "Attention, alien vessel. This is Admiral Marcus Webb of the Earth Defense Force. You are in violation of human territorial space and have committed acts of aggression against human civilians. You will release the human colonists immediately and withdraw from this system." For a moment, there was no response from the alien ship. Marcus could imagine the shock and confusion on their bridge as they realized they were facing an enemy they hadn't expected. Then the golden figure appeared again above New Gibraltar's city. But this time it wasn't speaking to the human colonists. It was speaking directly to the human fleet. "I am Vexhai, herald of the Ascended Ones," the voice said in their minds. "You dare to challenge beings of divine power? Kneel before us and we may show mercy for your ignorance." Marcus felt the pressure of the alien mental influence trying to push into his mind, but Dr. Vasquez's neural dampening system blocked it completely. Around the bridge, his officers remained alert and unaffected. "Your mind control technology doesn't work on us," Marcus broadcast back. "We know what you really are. You're not gods. You're just another species with advanced technology, and now you're going to learn what happens when you threaten humanity." The alien ship began to glow brighter, energy patterns flowing across its hull in what was probably meant to be an intimidating display. The golden figure above the city grew larger and more menacing. But Marcus and his crew were not impressed. They had seen their own holographic technology and energy weapons. What the aliens were doing was advanced, but it wasn't magical. "Last warning," Marcus broadcast. "Release the humans and withdraw, or we will consider you a hostile force and respond accordingly." The alien response came not in words, but in action. Brilliant beams of energy lanced out from their ship toward the Indomitable. The attacks were powerful and beautiful, but the human ship's shields absorbed them easily. Marcus turned to his tactical officer with a cold smile. "Harrison, you may fire when ready." The battle began with a display of light and energy that could be seen from the surface of New Gibraltar. The alien ship, the Eternal Radiance, unleashed everything it had against the human fleet. Beams of pure energy struck the human ships, creating brilliant explosions that lit up the darkness of space. Captain Vexhai stood on his command deck, confident that his divine power would quickly destroy these rebellious humans. For 3,000 years, no species had ever challenged the Zaphirians directly. The very idea was unthinkable. Increase power to all weapon systems, Vexhai ordered his crew. Show these primitives the true strength of the gods. The Eternal Radiance's energy weapons fired again and again. Each blast was powerful enough to destroy a city on most worlds. The light show was spectacular, designed to inspire fear and awe in anyone who witnessed it. But the human ships absorbed the attacks easily. Their shields flickered and glowed under the assault, but they held firm. The advanced energy weapons that had terrorized dozens of species were barely scratching the human defenses. Admiral Marcus Webb watched the alien attack from the bridge of the Indomitable with professional interest. The alien weapons were impressive in their visual effects, but they were surprisingly weak in actual combat power. Energy weapons only, he observed to his tactical officer. No kinetic weapons, no missiles, no plasma cannons. They're not built for real combat. Commander Harrison nodded as he analyzed the alien attacks. Their weapons seemed designed more for intimidation than destruction, sir. All flash and no substance, this made sense to Marcus. If the aliens had been conquering species through psychological warfare for thousands of years, they wouldn't have needed powerful weapons. They would have focused their technology on deception and control rather than military strength. Return fire, Marcus ordered. Let's show them what real weapons look like. The human fleet responded with a coordinated attack that was nothing like the alien energy beams. Instead of beautiful light shows, the human weapons were designed for maximum destructive efficiency. The Ragnarok fired first. Its quantum disruptor cannons sent invisible beams of energy that tore through the alien ship's hull like it was made of paper. The exotic matter that composed the Eternal Radiance began to break down at the molecular level, creating holes that glowed with deadly radiation. The other human ships followed with their own attacks. Kinetic weapons hurled tungsten rods at significant fractions of light speed. Plasma cannons fired superheated gas that burned through armor like acid. Missile systems launched smart weapons that could adapt their attack patterns to counter defensive measures. The contrast between the two fighting styles was obvious to everyone watching. The alien attacks were beautiful but ineffective. The human attacks were ugly but devastatingly powerful. Within minutes, the Eternal Radiance was heavily damaged. Explosions rocked the ship as its energy systems overloaded. The beautiful flowing lights that had covered its hull began to flicker and die. On the alien command deck, panic was setting in for the first time in centuries. Vexhai watched in disbelief as his ship took damage from weapons he didn't even understand. "Shields are failing," reported his tactical officer. "Hull breaches on decks 7 through 15. We're losing atmosphere and power throughout the ship." Vexhai couldn't understand what was happening. No species had ever been able to hurt a Zaphirian ship before. Their technology was supposed to be superior to anything other races could develop. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. "We are gods. Their primitive weapons should not be able to harm us." But his science officer had been analyzing the human attacks, and the results were terrifying. "Captain, these humans have technology we've never seen before. Their weapons operate on principles we don't understand, and their ships are much more advanced than our scouts reported." The truth was becoming clear to Vexhai. The humans were not the primitive species he had expected to conquer easily. Somehow they had developed military technology that was superior to anything the Zaphirians possessed. "Attempt to escape," Vexhai ordered desperately. Full power to engines, but it was too late. The human ships had surrounded the Eternal Radiance completely. When the alien ship tried to flee, they were ready for it. The Indomitable fired a spread of quantum torpedoes that struck the alien ship's engine section. The exotic matter that powered the Zaphirian drive systems destabilized, creating a chain reaction that crippled the ship completely. The Eternal Radiance went dark. Its beautiful energy patterns died out, leaving only a damaged metal hull drifting helplessly in space. For the first time in 3 millennia, a Zaphirian ship had been defeated in battle. But the battle had effects beyond just military victory. On the surface of New Gibraltar, Thousands of human colonists who had been under alien mental control suddenly found themselves free. The alien mind control technology required enormous amounts of power to maintain, and that power came from the ship's main reactors. When the human attack damaged those systems, the psychological influence over the colonists was broken immediately. Commander Sarah Chen, watching from her hidden observation post, saw the change happen instantly. One moment, the colonists were working like slaves to build tribute ships for their alien masters. The next moment, they were looking around in confusion, wondering why they were kneeling in worship of a golden hologram. "The mind control is breaking down," she reported to Admiral Webb. "People are returning to normal throughout the city." On D, the command deck of the Indomitable, Marcus felt a surge of satisfaction. They had not only defeated the alien ship, they had freed the human colonists without harming them. But Marcus was a careful military commander. He knew the battle wasn't over yet. "Dr. Vasquez, scan that alien ship. Are there any survivors?" Elena worked at her science station, using every sensor the human fleet possessed to examine the damaged alien vessel. "Life signs confirmed, Admiral. The ship is heavily damaged but still has atmosphere in some sections. I'm reading approximately 200 alien life forms still alive." Marcus considered his options. He could finish destroying the alien ship, ensuring that none of its crew survived to report back to their home empire, or he could attempt to capture some of the aliens for interrogation and study. The decision was made easier when his communications officer spoke up. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the alien ship. They're asking to surrender." Marcus raised an eyebrow. In all his years of military service, he had never had an enemy ask to surrender before even trying to negotiate. "Put them through," he ordered. Captain Vexhai appeared on the main screen, and Marcus got his first good look at one of the beings who claimed to be gods. The alien was tall and thin with pale blue skin and large silver eyes. He wore white robes that were now torn and stained with some kind of purple blood. But what struck Marcus most was the expression on Vexhai's face. It was pure terror. This was not a being who expected to be worshipped. This was someone who had just learned what it felt like to be completely outmatched by a superior enemy. "I am Captain Vexhai of the Zaphirian Empire," the alien said, his voice shaking. "I formally request terms of surrender. Please do not destroy my ship. We yield to your superior power." Marcus studied the alien captain carefully. Vexhai was clearly terrified, but he was also confused. The alien seemed unable to understand how he had been defeated so easily. "I am Admiral Webb of the Earth Defense Force," Marcus replied coldly. "Before I consider any terms of surrender, I want answers. How many human colonies have you attacked? How many other species have you enslaved with your mind control technology?" Vexhai looked even more frightened at these questions. We have guided many species to enlightenment over the millennia. 17 star systems acknowledge the wisdom of the Ascended Ones. But we are not conquerors. We are divine beings offering guidance to younger races." Marcus felt anger building inside him. Even now, facing defeat and possible death, this alien was still trying to maintain his lies about being a god. "You're not gods," Marcus said firmly. "You're slavers using advanced technology to control other species. And that ends now." But before Vexhai could respond, alarms began sounding on both the human and alien ships. Long-range sensors had detected something new approaching the system. "Admiral," Commander Harrison reported urgently, "we have multiple contacts incoming. Large ships moving fast. They'll be here in less than an hour." Marcus turned to Dr. Vasquez. "Analysis." Elena studied the sensor readings carefully. The energy signatures matched the damaged alien ship. "It looks like Captain Vexhai's call for help was successful. I count at least 15 ships, all larger than the one we just defeated." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. His small fleet had barely defeated one alien ship. Now they were facing 15 more, and these new arrivals would be prepared for battle. On the alien communication channel, Vexhai was smiling for the first time since the battle began. "The divine fleet comes," he said with growing confidence. "You may have defeated one ship through treachery and luck, but you cannot stand against the full power of the Ascended Ones." Marcus cut the communication channel and turned to his officers. They were facing a crisis that could determine the fate of not just New Gibraltar, but possibly all of humanity. "Options?" he asked tersely. Commander Harrison consulted his tactical displays. "We could retreat back to Earth and warn them to prepare defenses. Or we could stay and fight, but the odds would not be in our favor." Dr. Vasquez spoke up from her science station. "Admiral, there's a third option. If we can capture some of their technology and learn how their systems work, we might be able to turn their own weapons against them." Marcus looked out at the damaged alien ship floating helplessly in space. It contained technology that humanity had never seen before. If they could understand how it worked, it might give them the edge they needed against the incoming alien fleet. But they had less than an hour before the new alien ships arrived. It would be a race against time to board the alien vessel, capture its technology, and prepare for a battle that would determine whether humanity remained free or became another species enslaved by false gods. "Harrison, prepare boarding teams," Marcus ordered. "Dr. Vasquez, I want you personally leading the technology capture mission. We're going aboard that alien ship, and we're going to learn everything we can about how they work." The next hour would determine whether humanity's first interstellar war would end in freedom or slavery. Dr. Elena Vasquez moved quickly through the damaged corridors of the alien ship, her boarding team following close behind. They had less than 40 minutes before the Zaphirian reinforcements arrived, and she needed to understand as much as possible about their technology in that short time. The interior of the Eternal Radiance was unlike anything she had ever seen. The walls seemed to be made of the same energy-conductive metal as the hull, but they glowed with soft patterns of light that pulsed like a heartbeat. The architecture was flowing and organic, more like the inside of a living creature than a machine. "This way," she told her team, following her scanner toward the ship's main computer core. "The captain's bridge should have the information we need." Behind her, the boarding team moved with military precision. They were Marines trained for hostile environments, equipped with the best armor and weapons humanity could produce. Each soldier also wore one of Elena's neural dampening devices to protect them from any remaining alien mind control technology. The ship's corridors were filled with a strange mist that Elena's instruments identified as a complex mixture of gases, designed to maintain the alien atmosphere. It wasn't poisonous to humans, but it made everything look dreamlike and mysterious. They encountered their first group of alien survivors near the ship's center. 3 Zaphirians were huddled in a side corridor, tending to their wounded. When they saw the human boarding party, they reacted with obvious fear. Elena held up her hand to signal her Marines to hold their fire. She activated her translation device and spoke to the aliens in their own language. "We're not here to hurt you," she said. "We need information about your technology. Cooperate with us and you'll be treated well." The lead alien, a female with pale blue skin and silver eyes, looked at Elena with confusion and terror. You speak our language." "How is this possible?" "We're very good at learning," Elena replied. "What's your name?" "I am Zara Lynn, Communications Officer of the Divine Fleet," the alien said hesitantly. "But you cannot be here. Mortals cannot board the ships of the gods," Elena sighed. Even after their complete military defeat, these aliens were still clinging to their delusions about being divine beings. "Listen carefully, Zara Lynn," Elena said firmly. "We know you're not gods. We've analyzed your technology. It's advanced, but it's still just technology. Your mind control systems, your energy weapons, your ship's power source, why don't we understand how they work?" The alien woman's eyes widened in shock. That's impossible. The secrets of the Ascended Ones cannot be understood by primitive species." One of Elena's Marines stepped forward. "Doc, we need to move. We've got 35 minutes left." Elena nodded and turned back to Zara Lynn. "Come with us to your ship's command center. Help us understand your systems, and I promise no harm will come to you or your crew." Zara Lynn looked uncertain, but she nodded slowly. "The bridge is this way," she said quietly. As they moved through the ship, Elena asked questions about everything they saw. She learned that the Zaphirians had been using the same basic technology for thousands of years. They had perfected their mind control and energy manipulation systems, but they had never needed to develop better weapons or defenses. "We have never faced resistance before," Zara Lynn explained, as they climbed through a damaged section of the ship. "All species accept our divine nature within days of first contact. We offer them protection and knowledge in exchange for worship and tribute." "What happens to species that don't want your protection?" Elena asked. Zara Lynn looked confused by the question. "That has never happened. All intelligent species recognize the wisdom of submitting to superior beings." Elena realized that the Zaphirians had never encountered a species like humanity before. For 3 millennia, they had only met younger, more primitive civilizations that were easy to impress and control. They had never had to deal with a species that questioned authority or refused to accept claims of divinity. They reached the ship's command center, and Elena's breath caught in her throat. The bridge was a work of art as much as a place of work. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing information in three-dimensional patterns of light. Control surfaces flowed like liquid metal, reshaping themselves based on what functions were needed. But underneath the beautiful appearance, Elena could see the same basic principles that governed human technology. Computers, power systems, communication arrays, all arranged in ways that were aesthetically pleasing but functionally familiar. "Show me your communication system," Elena ordered. "I need to understand how you contact your fleet." Zaralyn moved to one of the control stations and activated a series of displays. Elena watched carefully as information flowed across holographic screens in the alien language. "This is our quantum communication array," Zaralyn explained. "It allows us to speak instantly with any ship in the Empire, regardless of distance." Elena studied the system with growing excitement. The Zaphirian communication technology was more advanced than anything humans had developed, but she could understand the basic principles. If she could adapt it to human ships, it would give them a massive advantage in coordinating military operations across interstellar distances. "What about your power systems?" she asked. Zaralyn led her to another section of the bridge where energy patterns flowed through crystal structures that pulsed with inner light. "We draw power from quantum fluctuations in space itself," she explained. "It provides unlimited energy for all our needs." Elena's eyes widened. If humans could understand and replicate this technology, it would revolutionize everything from spaceship propulsion to planetary power generation. But before she could ask more questions, her communication device crackled with Admiral Webb's voice. "Dr. Vasquez, you need to get back to your ship immediately. The alien fleet has arrived early. They're dropping out of hyperspace now." Elena looked out through the bridge's viewing ports and saw points of light appearing in the darkness of space. Each light grew larger and brighter as alien ships materialized from faster-than-light travel. She counted 15 massive vessels, each one larger than the damaged ship she was standing on. The newcomers were arranged in a battle formation that suggested they were prepared for a fight. "Admiral," Elena said into her communicator, "I need 5 more minutes. I'm on the verge of understanding their core systems." "You don't have 5 minutes," Webb replied urgently. "The lead alien ship is powering weapons and demanding our surrender. Get your team back here now." Elena looked around the alien bridge one more time, trying to memorize everything she could see. Then she turned to Zaralyn with a desperate idea. "Listen to me very carefully," she said to the alien woman. "Your empire is about to start a war with humanity. But it doesn't have to happen. We can work together instead of fighting." Zaralyn shook her head. "The divine fleet will never negotiate with mortals who refuse to acknowledge our godhood." "Then your people are going to die," Elena said bluntly. "You've seen what our weapons can do to your ships. We don't want to hurt you, but we won't be enslaved either." She paused, then made a decision that could change everything. "Come with me," Elena said to Zaralyn. "Come to our ship as a prisoner or as a guest, your choice. Help me prevent this war before it destroys both our species." Zaralyn looked around at her damaged bridge and her wounded crew members. Then she looked back at Elena with something that might have been respect. "I will come," she said quietly. "Perhaps there are things about your species that the Empire needs to understand." Elena and her boarding team made it back to the Indomitable, just as the alien fleet completed their battle formation. Admiral Webb met them in the docking bay, his face grim with tension. "Report," he ordered tersely. "Their technology is advanced but understandable," Elena said quickly. "More importantly, they've never faced serious resistance before. They're not prepared for real combat." Webb nodded. "That matches what we're seeing from their fleet positioning. They're assuming we'll surrender when faced with superior numbers." He activated the ship's communication system and broadcast on all frequencies. "Alien fleet, this is Admiral Webb of the Earth Defense Force. We have your captain and crew as prisoners. Withdraw from this system immediately, or we will consider your presence an act of war." The response came in the form of a massive holographic projection that appeared in space between the two fleets. It showed a Zaphirian who was even more impressive looking than Captain Vexhai. This alien wore robes that seemed to be made of starlight itself, and energy crackled around him like controlled lightning. "I am High Commander Zethmore of the Divine Fleet," the figure announced, its voice somehow reaching every ship in both fleets. You mortals have committed an unforgivable sin by attacking servants of the gods. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick. Admiral Webb smiled coldly. Dr. Vasquez, are your neural dampeners working? Elena checked her instruments. All human ships are protected. From their mind control technology. Good. Then, let's show these false gods what happens when they threaten humanity. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Zaphirian fleet attacked with overwhelming numbers and impressive energy weapons that lit up space with beautiful deadly light. But the human fleet fought with cold precision and devastating firepower. Quantum weapons tore through alien hulls. Kinetic projectiles struck with the force of small nuclear explosions. Smart missiles adapted to counter alien defenses in real time. Most importantly, the human fleet fought with coordination and tactical intelligence that the Zaphirians couldn't match. While the aliens relied on individual ship commanders making independent decisions, the human ships worked together as a single unified force. Within an hour, half the alien fleet had been destroyed or disabled. The beautiful energy beings who claimed to be gods were revealed as mortal creatures who could bleed and die like anyone else. High Commander Zethmore's ship, the largest and most powerful in the alien fleet, found itself surrounded by human vessels. Its weapons were exhausted, its shields were failing, and its crew was in panic. Admiral Webb opened a communication channel to the alien commander. This is your last chance, Webb said firmly. Surrender now, and your surviving crew will be treated according to the laws of war. Continue fighting, and we will destroy every ship in your fleet. On the screen, High Commander Zethmore looked nothing like the godlike being he had appeared to be at the start of the battle. His starlight robes were torn and dirty. Energy no longer crackled around him. He looked like what he really was, a defeated military commander whose tactics had failed completely. "How would I surrender?" Zethmore said, his voice barely a whisper. "The divine fleet yields to the humans." The words were broadcast across all remaining alien ships, and one by one they powered down their weapons and admitted defeat. But Admiral Webb wasn't finished yet. He had one more message to send. "Attention Zaphirian Empire," he broadcast on the alien communication frequencies. "This is Admiral Marcus Webb of the Earth Defense Force. Your fleet has been defeated. Your false claims of divinity have been exposed. From this day forward, humanity will patrol this region of space. Any attempt to enslave or control other species will be met with force." He paused, then delivered the message that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. "To all species currently under Zaphirian control, you are free. Humanity offers friendship and alliance to any race seeking independence from false gods. We will help you build your own defenses and govern yourselves according to your own choices." The message was transmitted across dozens of star systems where subject species had served the Zaphirian Empire for centuries. On world after world, populations that had thought themselves bound to serve gods forever learned that their masters were merely mortals with advanced technology. Rebellions broke out across the Zaphirian Empire within days. Species that had been enslaved for generations threw off their chains and declared independence. The 3,000-year reign of the false gods crumbled in less than a week. Admiral Webb stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, looking out at the stars where human and alien ships were now working together to rescue survivors and tend to the wounded. Commander Chen approached from the planet's surface, where she had been coordinating the restoration of normal life to the new Gibraltar colony. "Admiral," she said with a smile, "I have a message from Earth Command. They're asking when you'll be ready to begin diplomatic contact with the liberated species." Webb looked out at the galaxy that humanity was now helping to reshape. Dozens of species were free for the first time in centuries. Technologies were being shared. New alliances were being formed. "Tell Earth Command we're ready now," he said. "Humanity has work to do." The age of false gods was over. The age of human leadership had begun.